solar calendar system, the lunar model used by Thoth was in conflict and led to a quarrel and the eventual departure from Egypt to pursue creating his own new civilization.
Scientific evidence now clearly points to Thoth's exile path to be connected significantly to South and Central America.
Could Thoth's exile migration route have taken him all the way to Mesoamerica, land of the winged serpent? Perhaps the mysterious Olmec race in ancient Mexico can provide evidence to validate this hypothesis.
There are many theories about how the Olmecs came to be in Mexico. Some theories have them as Asian hunter-gatherers who trace their beginnings to shortly after the last ice age, about 12,000 years ago.
Other scientists, historians, and anthropologists, however, make convincing and cognitive arguments based on new evidence that the Olmec people can trace their roots back to Africa.
Numerous nautical map sources suggest that global winds and currents support the idea that ships could have sailed from Africa to the southernmost shores of Mesoamerica, intentionally or accidentally.
For example, one branch of a northern equatorial current could have carried African sailors from North or West Africa into the Gulf of Mexico.
Let's look a little further to the origins of Olmec people to find further clues.
Numerous artifacts have been found in Mexico that portray a hieroglyphic style of writing that is very similar to those of the Mandingo people of West Africa.
Scholars recognize that the Olmecs engraved many symbols or signs on pottery, statuettes, and other objects that have been identified as potentially the earliest form of writing in the Americas.
Evidence suggests that the Olmec race in early Mexican records originated somewhere in Western Africa, perhaps around the Niger River Valley civilizations, approximately 3,200 BCE.
Language and mining skills were possessed by the Mandingo-speaking peoples near Ghana and Sierra Leone during the same period in history.
Could it be a coincidence that the Olmec brought with them stonemasonry skills, gold mining practices, and language that also used calendar knowledge to establish an arrival long count inherited by the Maya?
Is the Mandingo race of Western Africa the ancestral source of the Olmec people? Much of the evidence seems to point to that. Let's look closer.
The Olmec culture may very well have been the first Mesoamericans to develop a writing system. Although there are disputes as to whether markings on recovered artifacts rise to the level of writing, there's enough evidence to suggest that the symbols found in 2002, dated to 650 BC, are actually a form of Olmec writing, preceding the oldest Zapotec writing, dated to about 500 BC.
The hieroglyph-styled Olmec markings are similar to the writing used by peoples in ancient West Africa and Egypt. This evidence makes a strong case for this African Olmec origin hypothesis and helps connect the similarities seen in writing and building in both Egypt and Mesopotamia.
Evidence suggests that due to the solar lunar calendar quarrel in Egypt, the exiled Thoth gathered together Hermetic priests and stone builders from Western African regions and initially sailed to the Guatemala coastline, with the Mandingo Olmec peoples arriving later in Veracruz, Mexico.
Was the goal of Thoth's journey to create an Atlantean civilization in the new lands? The only way to find out for sure is to follow the path of evidence left behind, leading us all the way to Mesoamerica.
Arriving in Veracruz, Mexico, at the base of the Tuxtla Mountains, we find enormous carved stone heads left behind by the Olmec culture, who seem to possess an advanced understanding of the cycles of the heavens.
Who could have given the Olmec people all of their advanced stone masonry skills to carve such intricate statues and monuments? And could it all lead back to ancient Egypt? Let's look a little further.
Deep in the jungles of Veracruz, we find the most important Olmec sites concentrated around the ruined site of La Venta.
Many feel a deep connection to the natural beauty of the Yucatan, and when fully immersed in the jungle, experience an awakening of their souls, often subdued by the imposing chaotic noise of the modern metropolitan life.
Further evidence for the territorial limits recorded by the Olmec are seen further south at the ruins of Tula. Located there are elaborately carved giant statues that show striking similarities to those from the Olmec further north in Veracruz.
What further proof do we have that the Olmec people originated from Africa? When looking at a feature analysis done of the Olmec head statues, one can clearly see African nevoidal similarities.
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence we have linking the Olmecs to Western Africa comes from the name itself. The name Olmec means rubber people, as they possessed superior skills and understanding working with rubber trees.
Did the Olmec culture retain knowledge for the cultivation of rubber from their ancestral African home?
Overwhelming evidence published by scholars shows a clear link from Mesoamerican races and those originating from Africa.
The Firestone rubber plant, located in Liberia, is evidence of the importance of rubber to the industrialized world before synthetic replacement was discovered.
The Mayan people, along with the Aztec, Toltec, and Olmec, used 3 different calendars. 2 of the calendars were cyclical, measuring the cycles of the sun, moon, and of Venus, while the 3rd calendar was chronologic, measuring the passage of time from a certain starting point, termed the long count.
Scholars decoding Olmec and Mayan writings calculate the start point to be August 11, 3113 BCE.
The important long count date of 3113 BCE clearly preceded the Mayan civilization in Mesoamerica.
An inscription found at the ancient Mesoamerican pyramid site of Tikal records the number of days that had transpired since the long count in glyph form, allowing researchers to date the inscription to 292 AD.
The decoded date of the Tikal inscription was accomplished by decoding the counting glyph symbols the Maya used for tracking time. Starting at the ones position and ascending upwards in the inscription, we have 15 kin equals 15 times 1, or 15 days. 8 uinal equals 8 times 20, equals 160 days. 14 tun equals 14 times 360, equals 40 days. 12 katun equals 12 times 20 times 360, equals 86,400 days. 8 baktun equals 8 times 400 times 360, equals 1,152,000 days. The total is 1,243,615 days, or 3,404 years since the long count, August 11th, 3,113 BCE.
What future event was the Mayan long count tracking? And if Ian Lungold was correct, is that possibly happening now?
Strong evidence indicates that Quetzalcoatl, the great god of the Mesoamericas, was none other than Thoth, whose epithet, the plumed or winged serpent, was well known in Egyptian iconography.
Quetzalcoatl, like Thoth, was the god who knew and taught the secrets of temple building, numbers, astronomy, and the calendar.
Could the symbolism of the plumed serpent be the great secret that has been hiding in plain sight all along, connecting the cultures of Mesoamerica to those of Egypt and Sumer?
In Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, a profound experience occurs between Hermes and Poimandre, who is represented as the great celestial dragon.
Poimander reveals to Hermes that he is the great mind and consciousness of the universe, and commissioned him to be mankind's immortal teacher. Could this be the reason why the winged serpent symbology was adopted by Thoth Hermes, seen mimicked throughout past advanced cultures?
Serpent symbolism can be seen all throughout Mesoamerica, the most famous of which is seen at the Great El Castillo Pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula at Chichen Itza.
Could this shadowy serpent descending in El Castillo, witnessed by the fall equinox, be an occluded symbolic veneration of Hermes Quetzalcoatl for his epic encounter and commission given to him by the great dragon Poimander?
Recall the biblical story of the Garden of Eden. Eve was purportedly tempted by a serpent to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We know from Sumerian accounts that it was in Enkidu's Eden Garden where the Anunnaki brothers Enlil and Enki monitored the genetic hybrid humans to verify they could